Welcome, one and all, to the One and Done podcast. I am your host, David County. And joining me today is our special guest, Solomon Rhodes. Say hey, Solomon.
Hello. It's good to be here. Nice to be on this podcast.
And Solomon, you are an avid Star Wars fan, are you not?
Yeah, fanatic is more the word. I've got the hat and everything. I have more Star Wars things, but I didn't wear them today. But yes, very big fan.
I'm also representing as well.
Mhm.
Okay, so today's topic is going to be about the impact that Star Wars has had on film history and film community. And also, we're going to be talking about Hollywood's trend of remaking and rebooting franchises. So let's start with the main topic. So first question I have is, I'm sure everybody knows this anyway, but what is Star Wars? Solomon, lead us in. What is Star Wars?
What is Star Wars? Star Wars began as a film franchise created by George Lucas. I guess the best way to define the genre is sci-fi fantasy. It has sci-fi elements and very heavy fantasy elements as well. But it started as a 3-series film franchise in the late 70s, early 80s, which grew into a worldwide phenomenon because of how amazing everyone thought the movies were. And it just continued with, more movies after that, comics, books, toys. It really kind of took the world by storm and created a worldwide craze. So now it's not just a film franchise, it's a brand that kind of spans over nearly every form of media that you can possibly think of.
Yeah, it definitely exploded. It's everywhere.
Right.
And I guess to piggyback off of what you're saying, yeah, I think Star Wars is probably the first the first science fiction franchise movie that kind of like captured everybody by storm. Like you had other sci-fi works like, I don't know, Flash Gordon or Star Trek or whatever.
In 2001, Space Odyssey is another big one.
Based on, but I don't know, it didn't make it cool, I guess,
Yeah.
Star Trek was mainly TV. So, but big screen science fiction, that was Star Wars. It happened in the 70s. In what way has like Star Wars affected film history, like in specifically like the storytelling, special effects, the music, stuff like that, whatever?
Wow. In my own humble opinion, I think Star Wars pretty much revolutionized the film industry when it came out. I think George Lucas was very, very meticulous in what he wanted to have done. And even to the point to where the technology didn't exist to have done what he wanted done, so he made it himself in the Industrial Light and Magic special effects studio. But just as far as like film going and everything, Star Wars is a story of like a basic protagonist, you having like Luke Skywalker, and it's the story of a young boy coming of age thing, wants to leave home, finds out that he's kind of a chosen kind of person and stuff who's got access to these different abilities, and it takes off from there. And Star Wars pulls heavily from old stories from back in the day. You can kind of see elements of a Robin Hood kind of thing, elements of a Three Musketeers kind of thing, just like old, and even pulls from old Japanese stories.
It's just a classic hero's journey. Like it's really simple.
Right. It's nothing like super complex or super complicated or anything. It's the story of a boy who becomes a hero, the savior of the galaxy.
Like you start off in the normal world, and then you enter the fantasy world or the overworld or whatever, and then you come back full circle to or maybe not full circle, but you come back. You've learned something on the way. You're a hero now. You've gained friends along the way, the journey, and then so it's a hero's journey of just a cycle of normal adventure, then back down to resolution.
Star Wars, it's really huge as far as the movie itself goes, as far as the special effects go, which at the time were absolutely revolutionary in terms of what you could do in a film at the time and everything. And then the music, of course, John Williams is legendary for the scores that he composes. And in my opinion, I think this is his best work, like what he's known the most for and stuff. You know, within 5 seconds if you're hearing a Star Wars soundtrack. So I think like just everything just came together to make a movie or a series of movies that were so good. So I wouldn't say perfect because nothing, no movie is perfect, but to make just a series of movies that was everything just came together so well and everything meshed together so well. The actors, the director, and the direction that he wanted to go, the movie, the music, the special effect, everything just kind of came together to make such an amazingly special experience.
You mentioned the music, and I wanted to say like how I think Star Wars kind of like brought about the importance of leitmotifs or like recognizable, themes, because like when you hear the opening music to Star Wars, like you instantly know what it is.
Yeah.
Or when you hear the Emperor, no, the Imperial March, you instantly know that, oh, that's from Star Wars, and that's Vader's theme, or the Emperor's throne room music. It's instantly recognizable. Having big budget movies like that, it's really important to have instant recognition whether it's visually, like an actor or a costume or the setting, or when it comes to music. Yeah.
Right. And I think a really perfect example of that is in A New Hope, where there's a scene, Luke's kind of feeling pretty bad or whatever because he can't do what he wants to do and stuff, and he goes out onto like a horizon thing and just sees like the twin suns setting on the planet that he lives on called Tatooine. And the music, the Force theme that John Williams made swells in that moment. And in my mind, that's like one of the greatest scenes in movie history because it just shows it communicated so much through just someone walking out and looking out at some suns. And just like you feel the longing, you feel the desire that he has to go out into the galaxy and see what it has to offer. You feel the frustration, you feel just all of the things that he's going through and everything. And it's just all communicated through just some simple things. Him just walking out and this music that swells at the perfect moment that shows, what it is that he wants. And I think that's a perfect example in my mind of just the amazing use that music has in movies it can just communicate without like telling you anything, without communicating at all. I think it's just amazing.
I also like the miniature work of Star Wars, like a lot of the ships, the Death Star, and the model working too, like 3PO and R2D2. A lot of that is models and like practical sets.
Right.
Nowadays, is most of the special effects or CGI. So like if you're watching a science fiction show today, if you see a big spaceship, it's probably not there really. But in Star Wars, it's there. It's small. It's a little model, but it's there. So I like the practical effects of it, and that's kind of fallen by the wayside too now.
Yeah, I think that makes a huge difference when you take the time to make those models, to make those practical effects and everything, because it does a better job of not taking me out of it, right? So like I'm sitting here and I'm watching a movie and stuff, and like I see this huge CGI alien thing that's just like, man, I really wish I could believe that was real. But it's obvious that this is something different. I think that like going the extra step to take to make those practical effects, to make those sets, it really does a good job of engrossing the movie watcher, the viewer, really, really more heavily into the film. And I think that like that's another one of the reasons why Star Wars just, that captured the hearts of so many and stuff. It's not like there was like a ton of CGI back in the late 70s, early 80s. But what George Lucas did then even held up to where it's like now I can still watch and still feel like I'm there. I can still feel like I'm on an ice planet. I can still feel like I'm on the Millennium Falcon. I can still feel like I'm, looking at, this alien creature that I know doesn't exist, but like it doesn't, my mind is convinced that it's not like completely fake, right?
Recently, we've seen that Hollywood and a lot of directors and producers, production companies have wanted to remake old movies or old franchises and renew them and change this and that about them and bring them to a new audience.
Yeah.
So what is your opinion on uh, remaking movies, franchises, whatever in Hollywood? Uh, how do you think that's impacts the older versions of the movies, and how does it impact Hollywood as a whole
Yeah,
and fans?
yeah. I don't think it's bad per se. There are a lot of people who kind of hate on it. Who just like, oh, let's come up with better ideas, more original ideas and things. And I think that's true. There's I'm not a filmmaker, but I would like to think that there are many original ideas that are still to be had, many new franchises that are still to come and to be made. Um, but I don't discount or discredit the remaking or rebooting of film franchise and stuff, especially considering people want to have something to share with younger generations and stuff. Like, oh, my child, he's not going to sit down maybe and watch a movie from the 1970s or the 1980s and stuff, no matter how much I want him to experience this. But maybe he might watch a new Star Wars movie or a new Jurassic Park movie or a new Indiana Jones movie, whatever. And so that might come out and everything. So I think like it has its place. I don't hate it.
Well, I have a bit of a mixed opinion when it comes to remakes. I think that if you're gonna remake a franchise, a movie, or whatever, you need to first, the director and the producer need to think to themselves. You need to think, okay, why are we remaking this movie? What's the point? Like, is it just to make more money, or is it actually to reintroduce or introduce something different to this franchise?
Yeah, I think that's something that's becoming pretty popular too, is just taking characters that exist and either gender swapping them or race swapping the character or something like that and stuff. And I think it's okay or whatever, but like I don't think that it serves the purpose that they're wanting it to serve. Because I mean, speaking for myself, like as a Black man or whatever, I don't necessarily need to see like a Black version of a white protagonist that already exists. I would like to see a well-made Black protagonist that exists in and of his own self, and stands on his own feet. I don't feel that it's necessary for you to, let's just like swap the race of a character and call it diversity when you could just put forth a little more effort into making a good character who is in and of his own self. But that's just me. Maybe that's just me.
Don't say too much, Solomon. You're making too much sense. After the originals came the prequels. So explain what happened there. What was George thinking?
So the prequels were so the original 3 Star Wars movies came out in the late 70s, early 80s. In 1999, they released Star Wars Episode 1, which was The Phantom Menace. In 2002, they released Episode 2, which was Attack of the Clones. And in 2005, they released Revenge of the Sith, which was Episode 3, which was to be the closing of the Star Wars saga. And these movies were set before the events of Star Wars Episode 4. Those movies caught a lot of
Black.
Black is a word. We'll use that.
Yeah.
They caught a lot of bad reviews, a lot of frustration and everything, because the quality of those movies weren't up to par with what people were used to with Star Wars. Personally, I'm not a prequel basher. I don't believe that Episode 1 and Episode 2 are good movies, but I don't think that means they're not enjoyable movies. I enjoy them. I've seen them several dozens of times. I think Episode 3 is actually not a bad movie at all. But I think things were a bit different. I don't think George Lucas has ever been a fantastic screenplay writer. And I think that the movie suffered a lot from pretty bad writing. Bad writing.
The dialogue, especially.
The dialogue is cringy, to say the least. And I think
part of what makes it nice. The cringy dialogue is part of what makes it unique, I guess, or
Yeah, unique is a word.
Unique is too strong of a word. It makes it memorable.
Memorable. There we go. It makes it memorable.
Yeah.
But yeah, the movies they're not fantastic or anything, but over time, the movies have kind of gathered a nice cult following of people who like appreciate for what they are, to the point to where they're pretty, accepted nowadays, or at least the memes that come from the prequels are pretty accepted. But they're not fantastic movies. They're definitely not anywhere near the quality of the original trilogy, but it's still Star Wars, and I love Star Wars. So I think they're still kind of accepted, even through the midst of some poor dialogue, some poor writing, and some less than stellar acting in some cases. But I think they're okay. They're all right.
But I think the prequels are it's kind of an example of what happens when, say, a director or a creator, is I don't know, high off of his success, and like everybody thinks he can do no wrong or whatever. And because George Lucas, no one told him no in the prequel. Like even in the original trilogy, he only directed, I think. Yeah, he only directed the first one.
Directed episode 4. Yeah, other people directed episodes 5 and 6.
Yeah, but he did like the overall story and helped with the screenplays for all three. So it's just like he had no collaboration with other writers, with other writers and other directors.
One of the things that the prequels get a really, really bad rep for is, particularly Star Wars Episode 1, is for the CGI, which was very, very prevalent in the movie. And like we talked about the practical effects before and stuff, how it does a good job of keeping people invested in the movie or whatever. The CGI in Episode 1 was very, very prevalent and very, very obvious in most cases. So it kind of took you out of the feel of Star Wars sometimes.
A lot of times it was too much and it just was unnecessary. Like, so this isn't a prequel example, but and when he remade the originals, like the special remaster or whatever, like there's this one scene in Mos Eisley station. Mos Eisley, where Luke and Obi-Wan are coming into Mos Eisley, and it's just a normal scene of them riding in the speeder, and stormtroopers come up to stop them. But George Lucas decides that, oh wait, no, I'm gonna have a CGI animal cross the screen and like just completely ruin the scene. Like you don't even it covers pretty much the whole screen. It's like, why is that there? And it looks fake. Yeah. I have this fake animal coming across my screen, blocking the screen. You don't even know what it is. Like you don't see the whole animal. You just see like the body of it walking by. Like it's just unnecessary.
Yeah, and that is also, you bring up another point of something that George Lucas did that didn't sit well with fans. He continually remastered the original trilogy. By when CGI technology got more and more popular and more advanced, he just started adding things, adding little things into Star Wars and stuff. And I think some of those changes were, pretty good just for continuity's sake for the movie. A lot of them weren't. A lot of them were just pretty jarring to see when you saw it and everything, and it's pretty rough to watch something that you've already loved, something that was already great, just be added to and changed a little bit here and there and stuff like that, which the movies weren't bad. They were actually very, very good, and they didn't need anything done to them or anything, but George Lucas felt otherwise, and that's something else that George Lucas got a lot of flack for.
The sequel trilogy. So, man, those movies were controversial, I would say, or
Yes, quite controversial.
At least among the fandom. You have some people who hate episode 7, 8, 9, and some people who love episode 7, 8, 9. And so well, I'll give my opinion on why is that first, and then I'll ask you for your take. I think that over the last Star Wars movie was 2005.
5.
So the last Star Wars movie was in 2005, and then let's see, episode 7. Episode 7 came out in 2015. So that's like 10 years.
10 years.
10 long years that we've since we had a Star Wars movie. And when it first when you first see that trailer, when the first trailer for Force Awakens came out, the anticipation builds. It's like, oh my God, Star Wars is coming back. It's going to be epic. It's going to be awesome. People are going to be uh, laid out in their seats from just shock and awe. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing. So when it finally comes out, people are like, oh, that's it? Just a retelling of the first movie, just with different people and different characters and characters that I don't even really like as much as the old ones. So you have, I think the hype was built up so much that you were going to be disappointed. Fans were going to be disappointed in some ways, but also I think that in this new era of film, directors and producers, they wanted to pander and capitalize on the social environment of modern times. So like, feminism is really a driving force in society right now. Political correctness, diversity, and also I guess playing to a younger audience also, getting a new generation into Star Wars. So it was important that Disney say, okay, we're going to have a female main character, a female Jedi as our main character in the sequel. And we're going to have a diverse cast. It's not just going to be all white men. We're going to have women. We're going to have people of color. Everybody's going to be in our Star Wars movie. Everybody. And it's going to be new. It's going to be fresh. It's going to be interesting. It's going to blow everything out of the water.
Yeah. So let me just say, I was one of those people who was like uber excited when I found out they were making a new Star Wars movie. My brother and I watched the trailer several hundred times.
So did I.
The first teaser, we couldn't believe that they were making more Star Wars movies. We love Star Wars. We've always loved Star Wars. We bought our tickets I think a day after they went on sale, put them in a lockbox until the day that the movie was going to be coming out. We went out there, we sat in line for several hours so that we could get good seats in the theater. We were hyped. We were on the hype train. I don't think it was bad. I think it was, for what it wasn't a bad movie at all. I thought it was a pretty decent movie. I thought it was pretty, a fun movie to go and sit down and watch. I appreciated it for what it was. I do think that there were, as they set up a lot of things in episode 7 that just didn't pay off, a lot of things about Rey that didn't pay off, a lot of things about Finn that didn't pay off, and it made the characters feel cheap to me. But it wasn't the fault of the first movie, it was the fault of the following two. But
yeah. Because I think J.J. Abrams, he likes to call it mystery boxes, I guess, where he likes to set things up. He's good at setting interesting stories up, but when it comes to paying it off and finishing it, he's like not so good, like Lost or something.
Well, the problem is he lets other people try to finish off things that he started, and without like his vision. Yeah, I think he had a good vision to start off with, but the people who came after him didn't. The person who came after him didn't follow through with that vision, and he was left to try to pick up the pieces. It was really kind of terrible. To address things that you were saying and stuff, like I think that Star Wars was in need of a good, strong female character. Leia was an amazing, strong female character and stuff like that. And Star Wars needs things like that. It was in need of a good, strong presence of a person of color. I think Billy D. Williams as Lando Calrissian was an amazing character that was made in Star Wars. It was a strong person of color, so Star Wars needs that. And I just think that in these newer movies, it was just done so poorly and just handled so poorly that it cheapened my respect for the newer films and stuff. I appreciated what you tried to do, but you didn't do well.
So do you think a lot of the fan hate that goes towards Daisy Ridley? Yeah, and Rey's character? Do you think that's just people being overly critical of the character, or people being something darker, like misogynistic or sexist.
Yeah. I think that it can play a little both sometimes, unfortunately. In the world we live in, people just don't like to see. Well, yeah, I'd say people don't like to see stronger female characters and everything, but I think more so, people would have complained anyway, but a lot of complaining gets justified because the character was done so poorly. And that's unfortunate because I think that Rey had a lot of potential to be a really, really good character. But they made her this inhuman, unrelatable character in the films and stuff. And that's not what you want to see out of a good, strong female character and everything in the movie, which I'm a guy, I take everything that I'm saying with a grain of salt. But I just think that they could have done so much of a better job of making her someone more relatable. Rather, they went more for an ideal of like someone to be admired over someone that I can relate to. It's like a Superman versus Spider-Man kind of thing. Superman is someone that I can look up to and everything, but Spider-Man is someone that I can relate to. And I think it just comes down to people not respecting what came before, wanting to make something good, wanting to make a good Star Wars movie, yes, but just not really, I don't know, maybe having like a fundamental understanding of Star Wars and why people love it and what makes it so great. But that's just my opinion. So yeah, I think that Episode 7 was not a bad film, but it was made worse by the films that came after it, and it just really made the sequel trilogy something that, in hindsight, I kind of wish wouldn't have happened at all, because it really messed with something that I love dearly, and it made it, not enjoyable.
A lot of the reason why we have Mary Sue characters, like, very can do nothing wrong female characters at this moment is because I think women have been held back for so long in cinema and in filmmaking. So like when they finally have a chance to rise up and be at the forefront, they're gonna kind of be idealized. You're gonna have a female main character who's just a Mary Sue, like can do everything right. You'll start having big budget movies like that headed by women. And so once that becomes normal, then it becomes normal to have more complex characters. Like, yeah, this is the main character, but she's also an anti-hero or an anti-villain. She does some pretty bad things, or not everybody likes her. So, all right, so wrapping it up here. So last question, what do you think is the future of Star Wars and reboots and remakes as a whole?
Gotcha. I think as far as Star Wars is concerned, I think they may have kind of recognized their mistakes with the movies that they were making and stuff, and they kind of ramped that down a bit and started investing more in television. I think that is going extremely well for them.
Yeah, Mandalorian is
an
awesome,
amazing
right?
television show. They released the last season of Star Wars Clone Wars, which was fantastic. And they've got like a lot of other things that are just like lined up, ready to go down the pike and everything. And I think like Star Wars it's doing better now than it was before. It was just really hard to watch and difficult to see it struggle so much because like I love Star Wars and I hated watching poor films, poorly made Star Wars films and stuff, and saying, well, I guess this is just what I have as far as new Star Wars goes. But I'm more encouraged now because things are coming out and better quality media is being made for Star Wars. And I think that the television shows are amazing. The Mandalorian is fantastic. I absolutely love that show. As far as remakes as a whole, I think just like if films or filmmakers can like see through Star Wars' mistakes and see like, what it is that's going on. Like we can't just decide, oh yeah, just toss some money at this already fantastic franchise and it'll be great, right? It'll be fantastic. No, there are characters here and there are things that need, care and attention. They're not just going to be good just because it's Star Wars, so it's going to be great. Like that's not true. That's shown us that is not true.
Well, yeah, I think the future of Star Wars has potential. It is bright. I think so. In terms of should they continue on with the Luke Skywalker saga. I don't think they should, and I don't think they are. Like it's done. I mean, they killed everybody. So Ray's the only one left.
Let it go.
So I think that's done. But I think there's a big potential for them going into standalone films. Like, we've already had Solo, Rogue One, and then we have the Mandalorian is a TV show, but it's kind of like a standalone thing. We should remember that Star Wars is a expansive setting. Like it's
Right.
entire galaxy worth of stories you can tell. So you can even have a mixture of genres too, but that are still Star Wars. So there's large potential, huge potential for standalone movies. And in terms of reboots, I think Hollywood hasn't really learned their lesson yet. they're gonna keep doing it. There's opportunity to make remakes of the other franchises, and other franchises have opportunities to make remakes. They just have to make them better. Yeah, you just need to be smarter about it. Like, how the fans will react. Like all these directors and producers, they know how fans reacted to Disney. Like they know what happened when they did Star Wars, when they did the sequels. Learn from that. Have a plan set out. Don't just throw things at the screens like, oh, we're gonna do this for diversity. Like make a plan. Marvel had like what, a 10, 20-year plan or 15-year plan starting with Iron Man, and they built up their success and all the way to Endgame. Like
success that included diverse characters of color, that included very strong, powerful female characters, that included all of that. It was done so well.
Anyway, so eventually I think the reboots and remakes, they'll subside, and you'll get more directors making original content, and we'll have better movies in general. But
or they just start making reboots and remakes of the reboots and remakes.
Yeah, but Star Wars has definitely been a very impactful element to sci-fi and movie making as a whole. And just like you said, again, the effects, the storytelling and writing has all played a part into making big budget and big concept movies viable for Hollywood. Well, Solomon, thank you for joining us on the One and Done podcast. This has been your host, David County, and there will not be another episode of this. That's why it's called the One and Done podcast. Yeah.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
May the force be with you and you.
With you.